Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Wandering Road podcast. I'm your host Chris, alongside my co-host Dean. Joining us as a co-host today is our good friend JJ from the Southern Demonology podcast. Our guest this evening is a return guest, Amanda. When she
Hello.
was welcome back, Amanda. When she was last on the show, she shared some pretty creepy paranormal experiences, encounters that she had with the demon when she was in her teen years. And I distinctly remember this one. You described it kind of as like a darkish looking golem. So that'll always forever stick with me. But welcome back to the show, Amanda.
Thank you.
So let's just jump right into it. Skip all
Sure.
the formalities. So you sent me an email saying, ever since that show, things have been happening to you. So why don't we jump straight into that?
Sure. So, um, JJ, I'm pretty sure like you know the reference 444. I've heard that it just represents like angels protecting you. Ever since I did the last show with you guys, I have been constantly getting like 444 symbols, whether it be on license plates, whether it be on anything, like just 444 everywhere, no matter what. And it's weird because I feel like I said before on the last show, it would always feel like it was there. And if I talked about it, it could creep back. That was my biggest fear. And I kind of got that like a couple of weeks after talking on the show, like feeling like that uneasiness. And I don't know if it was just my mind playing with me, but it just felt like that uncomfortableness. But after that week that I was feeling that, I just kept seeing those numbers, and it just felt very calming, very like angelic to me. It felt like something positive was protecting me. Happy to finally meet JJ. And like I said, those last stories that I told you guys, they really bothered me, and it took a long time to come out with that. But I just feel like life has gotten like brighter for me in the strangest ways. Even though I've had my recent accident, I just feel like positive things. I feel a lot, happier. And yeah, JJ, I wanted to ask you that, like, what do you think of that? And what do you take? Like, I'm so glad you're here. Like I said, what do you think, like, that could have been with me? Because that's the biggest thing that I've always wondered and wanted to ask is what could that thing have been? Could that have been because of things that were happening when I was younger? Or like, why did it attach to me? Because I know that you always talk about it has to, you either welcome it in or it could, I just don't know why it attaches to me. I was very depressed when I was younger and I had a lot happen. Um, I don't know, but it's almost like a battle. As weird as that sounds, good and evil, like yin and yang to me. And I'm like, why am I getting, good and bad, good and bad? It's just very strange.
Yeah, I can understand that. You're right. I mean, any three repeating numbers are often described as angelic numbers, although 333 can often be corrupted, especially if anything happens at 3:33 in the morning. That's usually a really bad sign. Of course, you've got 666 or 616, depending upon your how you count in biblical Hebrew. But these things can be co-opted. So it's not, that in and of itself is not a sign of one thing or another. However, the fact that you feel lightness is a really positive thing. My question to you first is, have you been doing anything to help to encourage that protection, or have you been doing anything to help protect yourself?
I wear a cross all the time. I pray a lot,
Hmm.
and I do not try, or I don't say I do not, I try my best to think positive in my life. Like I said, I used to be very depressed back in the day, and I don't allow negative people in my life. I don't allow any type of influence in my life like that. Not to offend anybody, but I'm very careful with who I associate with.
That's a
I've
good thing.
had people in the past deal with Ouija board crap, and I'm like, nope, I'm good. I don't want to delve into that because I've already had that experience. I guess to protect myself, I keep, religious quotes around my house. I have crosses around my house. And I just believe that God's protecting me from whatever that could have been, because like I said, it can, I will get low sometimes and it just feels like there's something there, like in the corner or wherever I may be, there's just something there watching. And that's the part that I don't like, because that's the part that scares me the most.
I think that Chris and Dean can especially relate to this. The more that you talk about these things, the more likely you can attract their attention. I have experienced this more than I care to admit, and I do not like it at all. But I think you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. Now, as to why this thing chose you, only thing I can say is to harken back to Father Malachi Martin's Hostage to the Devil, where he said, "We don't know why these things attack certain people versus others." In fact, on Art Bell's show, he went on to say that he had actually performed a set of profiles against everyone that he ran across who had been infested or obsessed or something along the lines, and there was no commonality. That was the commonality. Rich or poor, class, doesn't matter. It's all equally valid. And some of the things that you can do to keep yourself safe, I have often urged, the prayer to St. Michael, Psalm 91, carrying religious artifacts with you. I myself have two blessed and exercise medals of St. Benedict. Those help a great deal, and they've helped with my nightmares tremendously. So, yeah, and really, but the most important factor of all of that is keeping your spiritual house in order. And the less that you invite chaos into your life, and the more you assert and manifest that order, yeah, bravo. I mean, I don't think you can be doing anything more than that.
Clarify, Amanda. You said though that you were saying that seeing the number 444 was attributed to or associated with like angelic and positive feelings. Is that right? It might be interesting to bring up for the group. And JJ, I'm sure you're tracking this in East Asian culture. We've talked about this before. The 444, or like four of itself as a number, is seen as like a mark of death. Probably most people who are believing in numerology or something along those lines or in that vein, who are born and raised in, say, China or maybe even Japan, I think the same.
It's
But
Japan
like if they
too.
Yeah.
yeah, so okay, so you're already tracking this. Okay, so
Oh
like
yeah. The
exactly.
number 4
And
is so unlucky there. It's yeah, they, and I think JJ, correct me if I'm wrong, 7 as well, isn't it?
It's
The number
9.
7. Oh, 9. Sorry.
Yeah,
9.
Thank
because
you.
4, it can be she, which is very close to Shanae, which is death, and then 9 is Yule, and if you extrapolate that, it could be Kodos, which means to kill. That's why you never give a clock in any Asian culture that has those same sounds to it.
Wow.
Both Chinese and Japanese have them.
so
Remind
my
me to give you a
question
clock
for
for
you
your birthday, JJ.
yeah.
A clock, or strangely enough, shoes. Shoes are
Shoes.
also highly.
Shoes.
Yeah, my wife, when we first started dating, she was like, "I need some shoes," and I said, "I'll get them for you." She's like, "No, you won't. Not as a gift." I went, "Okay, what if I give you the money?"
That was a ploy. It was all inside. It was an inside.
It
Um,
doesn't.
but
Yeah,
but but Amanda, like so, like when you were seeing 444 and you were already aware of that numerology from Asia, did that enter into your conscious at all? Did you have to stop and like think like, wait, am I seeing this because it's bad stuff or good stuff, or like was it an automatic positive feeling and you just had no question?
That's a great question, because I've had both experiences. Sometimes I would see it. For example, I can't remember, guys, if I mentioned this before, when my boyfriend and I were driving on the highway at night, and I was in my sports car at the time. I had seen a semi truck pass us that had 444 on it. And I excuse my language, I shit you not. I hydroplaned and we went spinning 3 times and almost hit a light pole. And I know how to drift the car. And I just told him, hold on. All I seen was just headlights 3 times. And I was like, okay, this is like the 5th time that I've come so close to dying, and I have seen those numbers, and that it does scare me because when I did kind of learn a little bit about the Japanese culture and that 4 was, you know, death, that is scary for me. But then I started to think more on that positive side. After my grandfather and my grandmother passed away, they were both very religious. It was kind of like shoved down my throat when I was younger, so I kind of like pushed it away. But then when they passed, that's when I started seeing it, and better things were starting to happen. So I legit, like you just said, I drifted to thinking the positive and just tried so hard to keep that negative out and just be like, deflect, deflect.
Positive front on that is you're not coming from a language which has negative sounds attached to those numbers. So I think from your side, you're going to be safe on that front. Like, yeah, you can play with gematria or numerology all you want, but I think that if you came from a culture which had those inbuilt sounds and associations with it, it'd be different. And there's no such thing as like angelic numbers within the Japanese or Chinese system that I'm aware of. So
Okay.
I think you're still good.
Oh, thank God.
But then again, we're all playing with things by rules that
Right.
we don't understand or fully see. So don't take that as a guarantee. But I
Oh,
think
no. All right. And I guess sometimes I wonder too, like with some of like the things I collect that, well, like I like I said before, I'm a huge anime nerd, and we all know that succubuses are part of, demons and everything like that. So like I was very scared to get this tattoo on me because it is like I guess like I wouldn't say demonic, it's just a character, it's just an anime character. But when I told my mom that, she was like, "Are you sure you want to get that on you? Because that doesn't it seems negative." I was like, "Mom, it's just, a drawing of a character." I said, "It has no, at least to me, no attachment to anything." But my family is very superstitious. They've seen a lot. And my mom has more stories for me, and I'm not looking forward to them because they're not good. I know that having tattoos is not really a thing either. So sometimes I do wonder, like the things I collect in my house. Okay, this is negative. This is relating to hell and Satan and everything else. I'm like, oh man, maybe I need to be careful. And oh my God, Chris, I forgot. I wanted to tell you guys this story. This was part of the negative part of when I, like the week after I had spoke to you guys, I bought a mirror at a yard sale.
Why?
No, I don't know, man. I was like,
For
oh,
fun.
it's
She
really
likes
cool.
adventure.
It looks really nice. No, it was not nice. It just after I didn't even hang it yet, and I was like, you know what? I'll try it. No, it was not good. I got that super weird, heavy feeling. The whole house just felt so heavy to the point that me and my boyfriend were fighting every single day. And we don't really do that. And I was like, all right, I'm going to take a step back. What the hell could be doing this? And then I thought, oh my God, the mirror, the mirror. And as soon as I literally did this, and this probably wasn't good either, but I did put the thing in the garbage. I made sure it didn't break. After that, maybe like a couple of days later, my house felt so like I could breathe again. I could breathe again. And I was like, all right, well, my neighbor, she came over and saged the house and cleansed it, the way that she does in her home. Her home feels so beyond peaceful that I go over there sometimes when I get anxious. And yeah, so that was the mirror story. It just felt that super heaviness and the arguing. It kind of reminded me of the Amityville horror. It really did. And I was like, this is not me. This is not him. We don't ever like go out of our character like that. So I was like, I got to get rid of that mirror.
I think that you bring up something I really want to touch on, if you don't mind, real quick,
Sure, please.
because I think I'm in the exact same boat as you are. I am a phenomenal anime nerd, and I started drawing monsters when I was 4 years old, and have done so all of my entire life. I collect the most gruesome of statues and artifacts and everything else that I can find. And I don't think that there's something inherently wrong with that. If you're not attaching negative aspects to it, then I think you're going to be fine. Because these things, in and of themselves, are not gateways to drawing the eyes of something that you don't want to see.
You know what's funny? You listen to my episodes and you still bought the mirror.
Yes, that's where I was like, wow, because your wife bought one from a yard sale and it just didn't click, man. I was just having a good day. I was like, heck yeah, I'm gonna buy something spontaneous. And of course it's fucking mirror. And I was like, why? Because it was so beautiful. It looked like Victorian, like somebody had made this out of wood and
Even
it was
worse.
gorgeous. So I was like, oh, you're so pretty, but you're fucking evil. Like,
Yeah,
get
right.
out.
Yeah, and I think to JJ's point, I think I fucking collect Dragon Ball statues. I have like Funko Pops. I have
Yeah.
2 like Funkos of like Reagan from The Exorcist, and an autographed picture from Linda Blair when she was in the movie of her like possessed and stuff. I don't think that necessarily calls anything because it's all fictional.
Right.
I think if you were like drawing pictures of maybe the Princess of Hell, or collecting depictions of Dante's Inferno, like with the actual intention of like, I want to collect like things that remind me of the Infernal, then that's a little different. But things with like anime and pop culture and stuff like that, that's just, to me, just religious bias. Because I remember
Yeah.
growing up when I was maybe like 5 years old, Pokemon was big back in like 1995. Like it just
Yeah.
came out 94, 95. I was 5 years old.
You
And
Pokemon
whippersnapper.
is the devil.
Yeah.
that's
Remember that?
Yes.
exactly where I'm going, because my
Yeah.
mom watched this news show, and a Catholic priest in some other country was like, they had a broadcast of him, like a news like report of him, and they had a recording of him saying like Pokemon's the devil and it's associated with demons and monsters, and you shouldn't allow your kids to buy this. And it was the same shit with Harry Potter.
Oh yeah.
When
Harry
the
Potter was
first
bad.
Yeah, it was like, "Oh, you're conjuring spells and it's
Yeah.
satanic and all this other bullshit."
Jesus.
So I think it's just part of the societal, like, religious culture that we unfortunately deal with, because a lot of people, they'll look at what we like, anime and Dragon
Mhm.
Ball, and even for some people, like wrestling and all that stuff, right? They'll look at it, they don't get it, so they immediately don't like it, and they associate
Right.
it with negative connotations. But one thing that I wanted to uh, go back to, which you mentioned about your tattoo, funny story. My buddy Aaron, he got a tattoo of like a Nordic type of demon on
Oh.
his forearm, right? And it was like horned, and it was like in a robe and whatever. And I kept fucking with him. I was like, dude, you're gonna get that fucking tattoo, and something's gonna
Yeah,
come for
no.
you. And what's funny is that he's like, right after he got the tattoo, it was probably like February, and he lives like in Eastern Pennsylvania. And it was February. It was kind of, I don't know if it was like mild or anything, but it was one of those days where it wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. You don't need to turn on the heat. You don't need to open your window. He's laying in bed, and he had his bathroom door is right there, and all of his windows are closed. His sliding glass door is closed, and he hears this like boom, like the door closes. And the first
Mhm.
thing he thinks of is like fucking Chris with that tattoo.
Yeah.
But what was crazy is that even like after he left there, like he met his now wife and they're married with kids and whatever. After he left that apartment, I was like, dude, anytime I went over there, I slept with the TV because like just one spot in your apartment just felt like really dark. Like in the bathroom area, you just felt something heavy. So you with the mirror, that heavy presence, that's absolutely a thing. That's a major key indicator to me. Because I remember when my wife and I were house hunting last year, the first house we went to go see, walked into it, the real estate agent like comes over, she's telling us about the house. We go down in the basement. I just turned my ass back around.
No, I don't
I
do
was like, there
basements,
was
dude. No.
something there that like it reminded me of like what I grew up with.
Oh
Like
no.
yeah, so I was like, no,
Oh
fuck this.
no.
I
Dude,
left.
I was the same way when we were house hunting in Japan at the end of last year. We came to this one place. Now, I actually told this story on SD, so I won't get too much into it, but it was the creepiest neighborhood that I could ever imagine. It was situated on top of a mountain or on the slope of a mountain. There were tanuki statues everywhere, like an obscene amount of tanuki statues. And then, like the residents that we encountered, they looked like they were zombified almost. And it's not because they were elderly, it's just they looked, it was almost like you stepped into an HP Lovecraft um, town in which the people were turning. And then we went into this house, and things seemed okay at first until I went to the third story, which was a small little attic, which coincidentally enough had like a Disney emblem attached to the door, which was kind of weird. I opened up that door, and it's just a single long room with a window on the far side. And I knew that something did not want me there. I don't know it's because I was gaijin or what, but I shut that door, and of course, and you have to wear slippers, and I've got big feet, and none of the slippers fit me, so I'm trying to like shuffle my fat butt down the stairs, can barely do it. I'm trying to grab my wife and say, "We gotta get the fuck out now." Yeah, it was not good.
Dude,
Yeah,
oh my
no,
god.
I've
So
oh,
Tanuki statues, by the way, you just like okay, so I had to search what that was, or I didn't know what that was. And as soon as I saw it, I knew what the fuck you're talking about. I saw those for the first time ever in my life in my during my last visit in Japan at Arishiyama Forest, what the bamboo forest up in
yep.
Kyoto, and we took this thing called the romantic train ride.
Mhm.
And you've done that, so like halfway through that, there's like a row of like 12 of them. There's like a large one in the center and they're going down in smaller order, and my wife and I just looked at them and we're like, what the fuck is that? Like those do not look cute at all. Like who, and I even commented at the time, I'm like, I wonder who in their right mind thought those were cool or cute. Those look like straight out of a horror movie, like any horror movie, and I didn't know there was an actual name for them. And so thank you, JJ, for putting an evil name to the evil face of the
Well,
Tanuki statues.
I mean, just to be clear, for those that don't know, Tanuki are raccoon dogs, and they're a real animal. They live in Japan. However, they have been associated as trickster deities or trickster animals,
Okay.
and they love to play pranks, but they're normally like a good omen. But there are some
Oh,
Tanuki statues which just look very sinister. And
yeah.
every one that I saw in this one area, and I'm talking about it wasn't one, it wasn't 10. I'm talking like 20 or 30 Tanuki statues all on this one street. That freaked me out. I went, no, I don't like this.
Especially the dilapidated ones that like start like melting in the rain. They're like breaking down because they're made of wood
Yeah.
or something. And like,
Yeah.
oh God, horror.
Dean, I'm so jealous. JJ, I'm so jealous of both of you for going to Japan. Like that is my ultimate goal before I turn 40. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm trying. Yeah, I know so much about it because, well, the anime and then doing, looking up the history of it. Um, and it's funny that you mentioned the statues because uh there's I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of Inuyasha.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, if I'm correct, the little raccoon guy, I can't remember his freaking name, but I think that he is one of those little guys that are in the statues because he does, trick, Inuyasha, but he's also with, Sesshomaru, and this is the whole thing. The anime, like Princess Mononoke, the little
Mm.
spirit
Mhm.
uh things, those are considered good. They're not, if I'm correct, JJ, right? They're just little
No, you're
spirits
right.
that, guide and protect. And that's why I wanted to talk about all the like angelic stuff, like because I have seen, to me, I feel like it's angels. And I know it's gonna sound weird, but when I was going through a really hard time living in Chicago, like this was my big time downtime before I met my boyfriend. I obviously lived on my own. Well, my own room just started again, the heaviness, but my closet, I fucking hated that closet. It was so like it was huge, so but it was like really deep. And once the lights were off, it was just like it looked darker than the room with all the lights out. That looked like the darkest parts. I didn't like it. Again, all that heaviness, all that negative. Where I'm getting at with the angelic part is there was a dove that would show up at on my porch on the railing. And I was like, that's so weird. Like birds would never, I never even seen birds on any of the buildings before. But what was so strange is she would come around. She came around 4 times. So again, that four was involved. And I know it was the same one because she had distinct patterns on her wings. And I was like, oh my God, like, is this? And it just calmed me. And then moving here, uh, I just got off the phone with my friend and he was talking about the dove from my old place. Guys, I swear on everything, the a dove. Keep in mind, it is cold as fuck still here in Wisconsin for whatever God knows reason. There were like no birds out this day, none, because I was setting up the porch to get ready for this, the spring and the summer. And then when I went back outside, I had my curtains open and everything. I heard a cooing, and I was like, thinking it was my cat because she makes weird noises like that. The dove was on the railing. I was still on the phone with my friend. I said, Alex, you will not fucking believe this. And I have the picture of it. I will send you the picture. I just couldn't believe it. I started crying. And this time of month, this is when my grandfather passed away. I have been getting so many signs from him. It's weird. And not in a bad way, but like kind of like that reassuring to me. So I have like put in my own mind that butterflies relate to my grandma and then dragonflies relate to my granddaddy. And a dragonfly showed up a couple of weeks ago while I was, doing the gardening on my porch. And I was like, "Hi, granddaddy." And it literally just he was just hovering around in my little section and then just flew off. And I'm like, "Oh my God." And then butterflies, I see them all the time when I'm feeling down. So that's why I said wanted to mention like the angelic things. Like I feel like, and JJ, you can, or any of you guys can say anything to this, but I really do feel like I don't know if it's because the human mind just puts it into for what how you'll think of like, oh, you'll see a one car on the road, right? And then you'll start seeing the same car over and over again because your mind's so fixated on it. But to me, I feel like that was not a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences at all. And my friend was over uh, last night and we went grocery shopping. He made us dinner and he got a soy sauce bottle and I just happened to catch it. I was like, holy shit, man. And I slammed it down. I was like, this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I mean. 444 was the serial number. on it. And then I got a credit card that had 4447 on it. And I was like, oh my God, like I do believe I'm protected now. And I don't know if you guys like Chris, if you feel like you have something, or Dean or JJ, if you guys feel like something just is there. Now, whether you believe in God or not, I feel like we're protected by whatever you believe in, as long as like the positive side of it, you know what I mean?
To be honest, I'm really happy for you that like you're having these positive experiences. I think that's kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, that's kind of what we're gearing towards here, right? One thing I will say, and I will always continue to say this, but I think that when you have these experiences, these unexplained experiences, paranormal experiences, or even traumatic experiences, the more you hold that shit in, it does a disservice to you. And I think it's really important to talk about that stuff.
Well, it also invites that darkness that you're
Exactly.
carrying with
100%.
you.
You're
No,
just, hey, come on in,
JJ, we ad nauseum, we talk about this shit. I said it earlier today when we were talking about Annabelle. Anytime I go on a show, or if it's on this show, and I talk about my experiences at length, you will catch me side eyeing my doorway. I don't do it on purpose. It's just instinctive because it fucking feels like something is watching me. It knows that I'm talking about it. And these things know when you talk about it, and they find different ways to get to you. Like if you are not in their locale where you're living in a home where they can directly affect you, but I truly believe that talking about it, sometimes to our own detriment, guys, it can spring some negativity.
I have touched upon this, but I'll say it here again. When I started Southern Demonology, I came down with a rash of health issues. One of them being a very large cancer scare. It scared the ever living crap out of me. It wasn't until I started to take more extreme measures to protect myself did that kind of calm down. But anytime that I'm talking, I mean, this is why I've called, I think, up to like 3 EVPs on my own recordings now.
Oh no.
This stuff, eh, the more you talk about it, the more it's going to try to attach. The less you can give it to attach to is always the best thing in the world. Don't go opening doors that you're not supposed to. But, at the same time, I think that, and I'm not trying to sound, brave or anything like that, but we're trying to give an outlet to people to express their experiences that fall outside of the normal. And I think that is hugely important. We're going to keep doing it. I mean, there's no way to back off from it now.
Actually, you mentioning all of that kind of like sparked something in me. I was going to mention the attachment thing. That evil to whatever that thing was, it took so much courage for me to come onto the show about that because, as I mentioned to Chris and Dean, I was terrified. And I guess my question to all of you guys is, I feel that that thing is still there, but just waiting. And what I mean by that is I feel like it cursed me with so much bad luck because everything came in threes. My arm being broken, my shop being jeopardized, and then other things, another thing happening that I don't want to talk about. I just took a second and I was like, God, I don't know what you're trying to tell me, but I also didn't feel like it was God, obviously, doing that. I truly feel like that thing still is around somehow, some way, attached to me. Because when I don't know, JJ, if you listen to that podcast, but I told them, I said, when that boy casted that thing away from me, I feel like a piece of it still lunged to me, when I ran. I don't know. I may be paranoid, but to me, I really do feel that way because My life is such a, and everybody's lives goes up and down, but dear God, I feel like I just get, every time I get that good high, that good, heck yeah, everything's going great, I get knocked down so hard. And I got so depressed with my arm being broken, not being able to do what I love. I started to do that spiral thing again, to where I was starting to drift away from technically believing, in good. But that's when, you know, signs were coming up that were, hey, I was starting to get, details again, lining them up when I get better. But that's my question to you guys. JJ, can it stick around to you and like curse you or whatever you want to call it?
Oh God, yes. And I hate to say that. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to, bring any darkness around. The moment you think that you're free are when the jaws are going to spring shut. Never assume that you're free. Keep doing what you're doing. And these protection methods, there are some passive ones like carrying an artifact around. There are active ones, but never stop doing what you're doing, because the moment you do, it's going to spring back, and not just at its normal level, but it's going to try to rush in. That's when you have to be on your highest level of defense, I would say.
And I know that earlier you guys, when we first started the show, were talking about the number 666. I see that a lot. I don't like that. That is the part that scares the living shit out of me, because I see it commonly on license plates, serial numbers on things. Good Christ, one of my credit cards was 666. And I was like, oh no. I told them I got to get a new one. I lost it. I did not feel comfortable. So that's why I'm saying I feel like I'm in this battle what to believe. It's almost like I feel like the demon's mocking me to bring me down to stop believing in God, because now I've started to believe so much. And I think that it's just like, no, let me do this to you. Let me do this to you. Okay, let me do something so rash with my arm. The moment I broke it, I'm not going to lie, I cursed God a lot. And I was like, why did you do this to me? I try so hard in my life to get where I want it to be. And I've been doing that for 8 years. And that is my passion. And I love it to death. And if I lost it, I feel like I would lose myself. And a part of me feels like that thing was mocking me. Like, guys, I was in the house by myself because my boyfriend has to work, by myself for an entire 4 weeks, a month. And I was going insane. And I was like, okay, my mind was going back and forth. Do I believe in this? Do I believe in this? And questioning every single thing that I was going through. And I just didn't know what to do. So, but I
That's
grabbed my cross and I was like, no, let's see the good in this. And that's when I started to feel a lot better and just think positive, you know. So, and that
well.
is scary, JJ. That it really
Let
sucks.
me
And
let me say
yeah,
this.
Dean, I was gonna kick it to you, man, about the 666.
Yeah.
I think you had a little.
Yeah. If I can offer you some words of encouragement or previous examples that I went through, so you don't have to go through it anymore. I was in the same boat as you years and years and years ago. I will say something that's a little bit different about us, which is totally fine. Everybody has their own path. It seems like you're affixed to your Christian faith and God and stuff like that, which is totally cool. For me, I escaped that ultra focus on the negativity and the like seeing 666 and stuff like that. The way I escaped it was broadening out to kind of occupy different bubbles of cultures and religions, and looking at it through that lens, and that gave me a lot of comfort and calm. And coming to find out, like I went on, and again, like I said, this is years ago. I had gone on to study Chinese culture, Chinese language, and Mandarin and stuff like that, and I came to find out that 666 in China, pretty lucky number. Like there's no
oh
concept
nice.
of there's no concept of Satanism associated with 666 or 616, like JJ said, depending on how you interpret it from the Bible. And even that too, like there are some people who say it's not it's not 666, it's 616. So like I really feel like while there might be some actual separate entity that's affecting you, I think that as humans, we really give a lot of it power in terms of how we perceive things. So I still see 666 all the time. I see 444 all the time. And what's funny is if I see 444, I think more of a negative connotation, whereas you think positive. And when you see 666, you think negative. When I see it, I'm like, oh, that's a lucky number in Chinese. Maybe it means money, wealth, or whatever. And so once I grasped that over the years, and that's really helped not distract me, like to shut all of it out. Like I still think that there's something to that. Seeing numbers and timing and weird coincidences. It's so hard to, once you have all that information and knowledge from different perspectives, it's so difficult to decide what exactly, and you could just be feeling whatever you're feeling in that moment to decide if it's positive or negative just based off of what you're going through. And the last thing I'll say before I kick it back is I think you have to be very cautious as a person, as a human being. You know that there are subconscious workings of your brain that are constantly firing outside of your awareness in a given moment. And so when you turn to look at the clock, and I talk to my wife about this all the time, like sometimes there are days and days in a row where I'm constantly turning to the microwave. I'm constantly turning to the clock. Some other number I'm seeing 13, 13, 13, 13. And I think more cultures than not see negative connotation for 13. But then I also know that, okay, well, if I'm turning my head at the clock right when it's striking 13, that doesn't necessarily mean that something is throwing an image to me. I could be just so ultra aware at a subconscious level that I want to see it because it's scary. So maybe I know instinctively when I'm turning to the clock that it's going to be 13, even like subconsciously, even though my conscious isn't aware of it. So there's that factor, your subconscious brain. But then there's the other strange things like you've been experiencing, which couldn't be accounted for by your subconscious, like getting the serial number from the grocery that somebody else bought. You know, your subconscious has nothing to do with what some other person did going to the store, purchasing an item and bringing it to you. And so I think that there are strange things going on at that level, and other examples that might not be as explainable as the subconscious, if that all makes sense. That's kind of a
No,
lot.
it does. I love how you get so into that. Like, I love when you talk about like the universe and everything like that. I'm like, man, I am so intrigued right now. I feel so stupid listening.
Oh, no, 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 please, please.
I'm
Oh,
only fucking
if
kidding
No,
anything,
about.
no.
it is more, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse in the way that, like, I've literally been bound by this way of thinking since I was, like, 12, and I'm in my 30s. It's like, it's cool to, like, get that perspective sometimes and have my brain work that way, but it's also it's a burden sometimes for
Yeah, it
Yeah,
sure.
sucks
right.
when you're trying to sleep and that shit won't shut off.
Yeah. Oh my god, dude.
Oh
Even
yeah,
last
I
night.
have such bad
Last night.
ADHD, guys. And like I'll be thinking of something just like JJ. Like shit, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Well, I
Even
love
worse when you
that.
get older.
I love that idea, Dean. I mean, and just to go back to the number 13, Asian cultures do not have triskaidekaphobia. There is no fear of the number 13. So the first time I was in Japan and was in an elevator and saw that there's a 13th floor, I was like, what? And yeah,
Wow.
it's just not a thing. They don't
Yeah.
care.
Interesting.
But I do remember what I was going to say. The one thing that I think that you can take for heartening yourself, Amanda, is this: the infernal. They can try to mess with you all they want, but in order for them to truly become attached, you have to give an agreement. They have to find a crack in your free will in order to slither in and negatively affect your life. Yeah, they can throw some horrible things at us. It first can go into the mental, it then progresses over into the physical until it goes into DEFCON 5, where it can infiltrate your will. And as long as you do not give that silent or verbal agreement As long as you're trying to keep your house in order, I think you're going to be fine. Don't rest on your laurels, but keep doing what you're doing. And I think you're going to be good.
Thank
And
you.
moreover, if you ever find yourself in a position where you feel like you're not good, that you need to talk to somebody, it can be on the record, it can be off the record. We don't care. Let us know. Because, I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
that's what
Gotta
we
stick
do.
together, man. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
am
'cause
on
I do get scared. I really do, because
Oh, me too.
that was
Absolutely.
the worst. And I always saw like at and JJ, you get. Oh, by the way, Dean, I didn't thank you for that insight. Thank you for that. I really do want to look into that because I love broadening my brain. I love learning. I guess like a question for all of you guys: do you feel like people that have had stuff like this happen to them, that when they die, they're gonna meet with both? Like be stuck in the middle. There is an anime that is like that. I cannot remember the anime, but the person dies and he did horrible things, but he also did wonderful things, and it showed him directly in the middle, and it showed heaven and hell on each side, and it was like his soul was getting split apart. I have such a fear of death that it is so bad, like it is awful, and I think it's only because of that thing that I fear, because I don't ever want to see anything like that again. I know there's a lot of people out there that listen to this stuff and go, "Oh, that's bullshit." Okay, well, when it happens to you, you can fucking come to me and tell me otherwise. And some people, they have that blockage on everything. Like you were saying earlier, Chris, they'll see something like the Pokemon. Oh, immediately it's evil. Dear God, just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that it's freaking evil. Calm down. You need to chill. Like, to each their own. But that's my question.
I'll take the Socratic way of answering this question. I know that I know nothing, but I'll try to speculate in what could potentially happen. Just taking an educated guess. Well, if you subscribe to Dante's Inferno, with the concept of heaven, purgatory, hell, there is a middle ground in which you go to purge yourself before you get into heaven. But from, I think, what you're the standpoint, like the perspective that you're coming from, you're worried that you pass away and your soul leaves your body and you're immediately confronted with whatever that thing is. I don't think that would be the case. And the reason I think that is because, one, whatever your faith is, I think that will always supersede whatever that thing is, the infernal. To be honest, I think if you stick to your faith, your belief, I think that thing will not be able to affect you whenever you pass on. I honestly think that, because I think
Thank
whenever we pass on, we get to a certain point in which it's like there are spirits that I think that have unresolved business and they passed on too quickly, whether it's through something tragic or they're just so attached to something here physically that they just refuse to pass on, to cross on. So I think those are the only circumstances, unless you're like out here like fucking, I don't know, murdering people
No.
and we don't know, then I don't think you're gonna
Amanda's
end
like,
up.
well, and then she picks
Well,
it up. She's like, well, Annika,
you like my new head? Like,
yeah.
I'm like, no,
And
not
call.
Evie.
Oh, that's good.
oh, that's
Dude, that's
great.
amazing.
No,
actually, if you want to talk about some satanic panic stuff, when I was a kid, and y'all were just whippersnappers to me, I was sitting in a church where they were talking about how the Smurfs were the signs of the devil.
I'm sorry, what?
One
Yeah.
woman for the entire clan. And like, oh my god.
Oh no, it wasn't even that
I'm
far.
sorry,
you
Glenn.
just
It
have to
was
go
I'm dead.
Gargamel, which is the name of a demon. The cat's name was
Oh.
Azrael, which is the name of a
Oh,
demon.
that's the cat. Oh my god, I forgot that name. It was
Yeah.
Azrael. Wow. I never made that connection until now.
and they
Well,
just kept going on. It was stupid as hell. Even as a kid, I'm like, yeah, this is bullshit. And then
You know what?
especially with D&D, like I love Dungeons and Dragons, and I had family members tell me that, yeah, you're going to hell for playing that. And I'm like,
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm still going to play it. So
yeah.
have fun with that. But
We'll see.
but to your question though, yeah, I mean, I can't claim any special knowledge. I will say that there are some pseudepigraphal texts in which do depict heaven and hell right beside each other. And it's supposed to denote that there's a fine line between the two. But no, I think that if you're a good person, then this thing has one chance to latch onto you, and it's during this life. And if you don't let it do that, then I don't think it's going to be able to bother you again because you will be in the light.
Thank you. Thank you guys. That makes it feel a lot better. you know, like a lot better.
Yeah. It's such a heavy concept. I mean, I'll offer up my point really quickly too, or my idea that again, I want to reiterate what Chris and JJ already said, which is like, we don't know anything. I'm not going to pretend like what I'm going to say is I I just know that I spent a lot of time thinking about this, like a lot, my entire life, because it's such a heavy question. Not even just for the fact that we are in existence, which is just think about that every day of my life. Like I just can't get over the fact that we're here and we're all talking and all that's crazy. But what it comes down to for me is I agree with these two gentlemen here in the same regard. But the thing that I'll add is I kind of feel like when you do something bad in life, or if you are a bad person, it seems to me that it makes more sense that you're just creating a situation in which you have to dig yourself out of a deeper hole. And it's going to take more time in the afterlife or whatever, or more weight or more fire or whatever thing you have to go through, Herculean thing you have to go through to shed your weight that you created for yourself. And some people believe that that goes through multiple iterations of existence, like reincarnation. Like you have to go through iterations to get rid of those sins or whatever you accumulated over your lives. And other people think that no, this is your one life, and you go to the next side, and that's the next level forever. But for me personally, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but I like to think of the idea that if there is a true good in the universe, and it is like the source of all good and love, whatever we call love, and all the good things that come with community and peace and harmony and all that real stuff that we feel in this life. If that's the truth, think about it from the perspective of a child. Like if you have a child, there's nothing a child can do that you would want to cut them out forever. There's no such thing as cutting your child out forever. There's always going to be a degree of love. There's always going to be, and the most important thing I think I've learned in this life so far is I don't believe, beyond a shadow of doubt, that there is punishment without lesson. There's no such thing as, I mean, there are people who will do that. It's called, eye for an eye, retribution. It's like, yeah,
Right.
I want to kill this person because they did something just like me. But if you're talking at a cosmic, religious, or spiritual level, I don't think that there would be any reason to have punishment without lesson, at least in this life.
Right.
So when you get down to the core, it's like kind of like you marry that concept up with the parent child and the lesson thing, and it's like no matter what you do, I'm never going to sever my complete connection with you as a child. Or if you want to think about that from spirituality perspective, religion, God, or whatever. So I think that when you get to the other side, like I think that there is more. It might be harder to climb out for a lot of people, or easier depending on what you do, but I do think that there is more, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I really like that. I just love that your brain thinks so much. You're like me. You
No,
delve
yeah,
in. You
good.
just go so like, whoa.
My wife wouldn't agree with that. she,
Oh,
she has to put up with me constantly postulating, and thank God I have Chris and JJ to unload on from time to time.
One thing I wanted to come back to is, you said when you got hurt, you kind of went back and forth. You felt like that thing was around. One thing to maybe to put your mind at ease, it could always be your own personal internal struggle in which, you dealt with that thing for such a long time in your adolescence. That's just what you fall back on as kind of like, okay, oh shit, here we go again. type of thing.
Yeah.
So if that makes sense, to kind of
No,
put
it
you at ease,
does.
that just to say that, like JJ, like we always say, not everything could necessarily be the demonic. It could always be like your mind, going to that place, because it's like, fuck, I had so much shit going for me. I fall on my ass, I break my arm. Like, what the hell? What did I do to deserve this? Like, am I
Yeah.
cursed? Am I this? Am I that? You start questioning it. Now, it may have been a case just, bad, wrong place, wrong time. You stepped on the
Yeah.
wrong thing and you just slid. Shit happens, right? But I think where it can become dangerous is that type of thinking and being negative on yourself and negative about your life and all that stuff, then you can start having chinks in your armor. And I
Yeah.
think that's what JJ was alluring to, where it's like that little bit of opening can allow it to slide right back in.
And for a while there, it did. I remember listening to a song that just came out from please don't judge me, guys. I know whoever's gonna listen to this is gonna probably judge me, but I'm not part of that cult that follows them, for God's sake. Sleep Token. There is a song from them, and it was so crazy. The lyrics just fit so perfectly into what I was going through, and anybody can take a song and interpret it in their own way. But I just started crying so hard, and I think that's the part where I started, again, those cracks, Chris. Just I felt like pieces of me were just breaking, inside. And then the following day, I just got so depressed and so angry. I yelled at my boyfriend, and I yelled at my friend that was helping me, and I just felt so shitty afterwards. I was like, I'm turning into this person that I don't want to be because of this. And then I had to, again, like, pull myself back and just think of all the positive, in my life. This is just another bump in the road, and that's fine. Life will always have those, speed bumps. You get over them so long as you push through. Like, you have to push through. There are people there that don't. They think this is the end. This is all I'm going to get. And I used to be that person, but then I don't know, just a fire got lit under my ass. I was like, you know what? I'm not like going to be like everybody else. I'm going to go and do something, especially with what happened to me with that thing. I got so scared of it that I was again spiraling. But then once I hit 20, it was like a light. I was like, you know what? This is what I want to do in life. I want to have fun. I want to do this. And I did. And then when I turned 30, that's when I got my business. So again, there was always that positive with negative.
I think the key thing is just not everything's perfect.
No.
We have this track in our mind of how we want things to go and how we expect it to go, but the universe has a very unique way of humbling people straight onto their ass.
Oh yeah.
So that's always one thing
Amen.
to take into consideration. And the reason I say that, because I'm not trying to say like that thing is not affecting you or anything like that.
Right.
I'm just trying to give another perspective
Right.
of like, what it could possibly be. With regards to that thing, do you ever get the same feeling that you gotten when you were younger with that
Oh God,
thing?
yeah. Oh God, yeah. I really didn't want to talk about this, but so
I mean, if you don't want to, like, we're
no,
not
it's
gonna.
Yeah,
okay.
you don't
I
have
want
to.
to get it out there. I don't want to be afraid of it, because it holds on to that too. It holds on to fear. So when, again, remember when I told you guys that first week that I had got done talking to you guys,
Mhm.
I told my boyfriend, I feel like something's in the closet. Just to, again, that that heaviness was so heavy. And then when I started walking around the house, it felt like it was behind me again. And that's the worst shit ever. I don't give a shit if it's like in a corner. When it gets behind me, that's when I'll start crying. And I do. I legit start crying because I fear, like, it. Think of it this way, like I'm sitting here, right? And it's just doing this. And the closer it gets, the more like I feel like I'm going into a panic attack. And I would get these coughing fits when I would, think of that week. after talking to you guys, that shit got so bad that I got scared all over again. I was doing this, like, where it felt like things were touching me, and I was like, nope, I'm good. Please, please just stop. And I felt horrible because I was like, oh my God, I talking about this. I feel like it was mocking me, like, yeah, you don't forget me. I hate it. I see like things online. And I'm not gonna lie, Chris, the thing that the picture you put for the background of
Mhm.
the podcast, it made me cry because it is almost like that, but it was just smaller. It was, again, the fucking thing. No, I hate it so much that I just wish that never happened to me. And I do know why it did. In a sense, there was so much negativity in the home that I grew up in and things that happened to me when I was that age. And I feel like, being 15, I feel like they latch on to people that are younger because you're more vulnerable, especially when you're going through depression and anxiety, which I had and I was diagnosed with when I was younger. Um, I just feel like it was like, all right, this is a perfect opportunity. But I've always held it where I've always felt like something in the back behind me. And you can ask anybody that knows me. I will never, ever stand in line anywhere with my back facing people. I will turn to the side, lean up against things because people make me feel like it's there. I know that sounds stupid or weird, but I have such bad paranoia and PTSD, I guess you could say, from this. Even when I told my therapist back in the day, she basically mocked me and made fun of me. And that just put more trauma onto me.
Then that is not
Oh,
fucking
she
fair.
literally laughed and she
Oh
was
no,
like, "Oh
I
no,
don't.
this is a joke. You're young. You probably seen something on the internet." And I'm like, "Lady, I'm crying in front of you. This took every ounce of me, and that was the only time I spoke of it to someone else, and that's why it took me like 20 plus years to come out to it again." And
I
I thank you guys for your podcast because I wanted to get it off of my chest, but I wanted to tell people that I could trust. And you guys are like the most genuine podcast to me. I love other podcasters. Don't get me wrong; they're amazing, and I have no doubt with them. But I guess I felt more comfortable with you guys because, well, JJ, you know so much about religion. Dean, you're very knowledgeable about all these different things. And Chris, the best part, you had experience with something. And that's where I connected. I was like, you know what? If this man can come out and talk about this shit, it is time that I put my foot down and I talk about it. And I can't thank you guys enough for that because it took a lot for me to do this. Even like again, like I start to shake when I talk about it, and I'm shaking now. I fidget a lot when I talk about it. I hate it. I hate it so much. But like I was telling you guys, I have such a calm environment in my house. It's so welcoming. It's so peaceful in here that I do not allow it. Our other apartment, I swear on God, that shit was haunted and something was wrong with that house because we would constantly fight in there. And that's where the mirror was. So I'm like, no, I'm good.
So we should
well,
do what your therapist should have done a long time ago, which is
Yes.
what let me throw it to you. What do you do in those moments? And this is kind of giving you the opportunity to put it out there like on a positive note for other people who might be experiencing this or in the future. Now, what do you do to twist that negativity into a positive?
It's going to sound weird, but I will talk to myself and I will say, you have no power here.
Yeah.
I know this is stupid,
No.
but
No.
like the Labyrinth, if you guys ever seen the movie Labyrinth, she
Great
tells
movie.
Jareth, you have no power over me.
Mhm.
And I felt like, oh my God, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want this thing to have power over me. So I'll grab my cross. I'll either speak out loud or I'll speak, in my mind, you have no power here. Fuck off. Leave me the fuck alone. I have nothing to do with you no more. And I'll think
Isn't
of
it?
positive things, like
Yeah,
my business. Like I literally like take a baseball bat to it, like fuck off. you
yeah.
know, it's,
Isn't it
but
amazing
it's
how powerful that is, though? Like that, I've done similar things too when I feel a certain way, and it. I mean, some people could just sit there, which is fine. If if you don't want to, if you don't want to say this is real, you want to argue. Even if you want to say this isn't real and you want to argue that it's just whatever, it still works. You're
yeah,
still giving yourself confidence, but even in the sense that, like, all of us think something more is going on for sure. But like, even in the sense of the spiritual, supernatural side, you are literally taking the power away from whatever is going on beyond yourself. And it's worked for me, it's worked for you, it's worked for Chris, I'm sure it's worked for JJ. Like, it's just like you don't feed it what it wants, and you realize in that moment that you have more power to get over it in yourself than that thing is trying to impose negativity onto you. And it's just like when you really learn that for the first time, especially as you get older, and that becomes your go-to answer, it works every time, and it works faster and more effectively, in my
right.
opinion, when you grasp that. But you have to grasp it first, for sure.
I agree. And I absolutely agree with, getting older. Like I don't know if you guys ever seen Howl's Moving Castle, and she
Yep.
is old and she says, getting old makes you not afraid of anything.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like
Mhm.
your mind is more developed, one. You're more, cautious about the things around you. And those things kind of start to go in the back of your head. Like, even though I was just talking about that, again, I'm saying what I said, out loud, like, get out, get out. Like, no,
Right.
no.
Yeah.
So, and I'll do it again when I get off of here, and I'll detox myself. And that's one big thing. I'll just breathe and just think of something positive. I can't stress to people enough with whatever, whether it's, you know, bad luck or you have something bad going on in your life, whatever. Most people, if they had what happened to me, would literally probably crumble and wouldn't get out of that dark hole. But I'll tell everybody this right now, and this is for anybody in this world that listens to this. The moment you start to give in to the negative is when you are going to go down a huge black hole that you cannot get out of. It's going to be hard when you start to crumble, but for someone like me, I am so optimistic, and I like I told you guys, I'm such a go-getter. I do not let shit bring me down. I'll have a moment, but I won't have, complete darkness again in my life ever. I refuse to, because it makes people not want to accomplish anything or get through their hard times, because there's positive everywhere. You just have to focus on that. And honestly, that's what me and my boyfriend are going through therapy for right now. He has a hard time, seeing good, and I'm here to be his rock and be like, no, like, get out of it, get out of it.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say I was furious when I heard what that first therapist said to you. You do not invalidate someone's lived experiences, or at least you don't invalidate the emotional response to those lived experiences. They should have their license revoked if they haven't already.
Right.
That's I'm sorry. I am not a mental health professional by any stretch of the imagination, but even I know that's the stupidest thing that anyone could have ever done.
Right. And especially when I was 15.
Yeah,
That's what the fuck?
'cause
No.
not only are you occupying a medical professional role, but you're also an adult who is talking to a child. Not a good thing. The second thing is that it's not stupid. Anything that is not destructive that works for you is a good thing. Keep it up. Don't ever feel bad. Shit, when I was a kid, I would hear constant urges for me to make deals with the devil. And it's not for my soul. It wasn't for riches and fame. It was over inconsequential things that I would have no control over. Oh, I bet that if I can throw this in the waste paper basket, then I won't lose my soul to the devil. That's not normal. And it could be OCD. I'm not saying it's not, but it took me a long time to get over that. And
Right.
then after doing the podcast, that shit resurfaced majorly. To this day, I still have that voice in the back of my head almost 20 times a day. Not as bad as what it was, but still it's there. But yeah, you can't let that drag you down. And I mean, I think that you are a shining beacon of what to do when faced with these situations. And I love it. And I was going to tell you, Chris and I were just kind of talking. If you want a exercised and blessed medallion of Saint Benedict, let me know.
That I actually would because
Give me the address and we'll get it to you as soon as I find them, because we've been going through a house renovation project and
oh
they
nice.
have lost. But yeah, as soon as I find them, I am happy to ship one, or actually two, one for you and one for your boyfriend. That's no
That
problem.
would be wonderful. Like I would really like that because I when you talked about that before, on the podcast, I was like, man, where do I get that?
Yeah,
Like
unfortunately,
eBay.
I've
No,
owed Chris one for like the last 3 months because I haven't found them yet. But I will. And if not, then I'm on I've got Father Birdsong's number in my phone. I can definitely get one. So
thank you.
Yeah, JJ. Run me my medallions, motherfucker.
I know. Don't hate me. I swear to God.
But yeah, Jay.
It's like Ace Ventura. I'm sorry, I had to bring this up. It's like when Ace Ventura's like comes back and he's like, "Where's the medallion?" I left it back with my body.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah, when he
yeah.
astral projects.
Classic. Yeah.
I haven't thought of that in forever. Oh my gosh.
So Jim Carrey, I don't know if you guys know this, but Jim Carrey talks about this all the time in his real life about what he went through coming up through to success in his career. He talks about this moment when he was younger of like having that aha, like everybody else gets when they figure out what they want to do. But he said that like, I'm going to get this wrong, like word for word. It was like basically in a nutshell, he was saying how these strange occurrences happened in a way that lined up. And I think one story was like, he was in a classroom when he was a kid and he suddenly like wanted a bike or something, or he saw someone like a kid have a new bike and he never had a new bike in his life. And that was the only day or the first day he had thought about like fixating on getting a new bike. And then he got home that day and I guess his family wasn't well off, but somehow his family was able to get him a brand new bike on that day. And he
Wow.
talks about this where like in his career, he had similar experiences, like where he wanted to achieve something and he consciously put his mind on it. And it ended up playing out the exact way he needed it to reach that level. But the twist is, and this sounds like what you went through, Amanda, with your getting when you were 30 years old, getting your business, like kind of reaching that apex. And he would say after that time that he was constantly trying to find that same wave that he caught when he was younger, but he just could not recatch that wave. And I feel like I'm in the same boat. Amanda, I don't know if you're in the same boat with breaking, like you said you got close to that when you broke your arm or whatever. And like I think that it's like a similar thing where we had this awesome thing happen, but we're trying to catch that wave again of
Yeah.
positivity, and it seems to elude us. And
Yeah.
that seems to be a recurring theme of a lesson for people in this universe, in these lives, for some reason. I don't know if you have anything, if that's similar to you, but it's such a weird thing that
It
all
is.
comes together.
I can actually like attest to that because that's how I felt. Like it again, that roller coaster effect. This is my time. here it is. And when I lived back in Florida with my business, when I first opened up, guys, I'm not joking. I was so booked out, like 6,
Yeah.
7 months booked out with detailing. Then when I moved to Chicago, the same thing happened again, booked out. But then it just like a
That's right.
instant disappeared. And I was
Yeah.
like, what
What
happened? And it's been very hard for me to catch that again now because the shop was lost and this happened. There are times where I think, am I not meant to be a detailer? But then I'm thinking negative. And I'm like, nope, yes, I am. Every time I look at a car, I'm like, nope, that's my passion. I started to get, you know what? No, fuck that mentality of thinking, okay, things happen, but I believe they happen for a reason. And it could be to save you from something. Again, that angelic power, that higher power. I feel like, okay, it's not meant to be right now. You need to pull back. You need to relax. You're doing too much. And it could lead to something greater.
Question for you, Amanda.
Yeah.
Has your boyfriend ever had any paranormal experiences? Or?
Yes, actually. Hey, Alex,
Oh, you don't have to put him on the spot.
I want you to tell them that story real quick now that I have them on. I want you to tell them that story. When you
Hey, buddy, nice to
with
meet
the
you.
guy, with
Hey,
your
Alex.
friend. This is Dean
You
and
have a
Chris.
Wu
There you
Tang
go.
shirt, so you're already winning.
Wait, what'd you say?
You have a Wu Tang shirt, so you're already
Oh,
winning.
Yeah.
do you see
Yeah.
like all the tattoos and like the berserk like?
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, tell them about that thing that happened to you. Like,
Oh
something-
yeah, Kelly's house.
yeah, Kelly's house.
Like the ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not really a believer per se to an extent. Like I do believe like you shouldn't mess with things because you don't, just don't mess with certain things. Nobody wants to get hurt and all that. But I don't believe necessarily the extent of people seeing like these crazy things and actual like people. That's just my opinion. But the scenario that I was in at my friend's house, he always told me that his house was haunted. I never blew out that. I was like, oh, okay. So he's like, why don't you guys sleep over? So it was me and my brother, and we went to sleep over at his house, and nothing happens over there the whole time. But then when it's time for bed, right away, he like, as soon as it's, the lights go out and everything, you hear, it literally sounds like people walking upstairs. Like, and I was thinking like, oh, all right, that's like nothing, man. Like, but like, I can't deny it. Like, it was literally just like, boop, 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 boop. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, that's actually crazy. And then like you would hear like chains rattling, and I was like, this is insane. Like, I don't get. Maybe I'm just so tired that like these noises and whatever's going on at his house that this isn't real. And then at the time, I remember he had like a little kitten, and it was like 4 a.m. I couldn't sleep because of the noise. Like there was so many noises and things that I couldn't like, that were just keeping me super awake. He felt like things were touching his leg, and he's like asking us like, is that you guys doing that? Stop that. And we're like, dude, we're literally on the floor. We're like, we can't be touching your leg. But anyways, at the time he had a little kitten. It was really small. And I know we put it outside the door. I know we did because we wanted to sleep that night because the cat was so tiny. And I remember it was like 7:00. I didn't sleep the whole time because I just couldn't sleep because it was so disturbing. The noises there. I was so paranoid. And he had these sheets that are hanging by underneath, the bed sheets underneath the bed, and all of a sudden they start to go. It's hard to explain. It's just like going and going like this, like the bed sheets. They're just like slowly like raising up. And all of a sudden, I was like, "Dude, this is insane! Like, someone's gonna come and get me." It pops up, and the kitten's in there, and we have like, there's no way it could have gotten in there. Like, there's just no way. And I stand by that. And I was like, "Dude, like, I'm gonna go." So like, as soon as I think I was like 7 a.m. because I didn't sleep, and I woke up my brother, and we're like, we're gonna go, dude. And then we just left, and that was it. But like, I never could explain that, like stuff like that. And when I was like middle school, and I got like that possession thing or whatever.
Oh yeah, this is creepy as fuck. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think I was like maybe like 19, maybe out of high school, and I remember I was like dead asleep. I could feel like everything. So like this ghost-like figure comes out of my closet. Now I'm laying. I know I'm laying, but I'm asleep. But it feels like I'm awake. and I can like everything is perfect, like my room and everything like that. And this figure comes up, this like skull like figure had like this crazy white hair and these rings on its fingers. Like I remember everything what it looked like. It didn't have legs. It just had like this your intestines like as like floating sort of. And I remember just it came out and it jumped in me. And I remember when it jumped in me, I woke up and like my breath was like taken away. And I was like, I looked around and I was like, what is going on? Like that was like the most like uncomfortable feeling I've ever had, where it felt so real that something like jumped inside of me. And I've always told her like, I think we have like a family curse in my family. And I always tell people like I'm bad luck because like I've almost died like 5 times after that's ever happened. So like, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like all the things that have happened in a sense of that things. Cause I try like to be skeptic at the same time because I don't want to really believe it. But when you see those things happen to you and you hear other stories and stuff like that, it messes you up for a little while because you're just like, all right, that never happened. But you can't play it off because it did happen. And then things that follow up that keep happening, especially to like my family, because I've always told them I feel like we have a curse because bad luck
Same.
always happens to us, and then same for her. So that's the stories I could think of at the moment.
Don't discount the idea of generational curse, because I'm pretty dang sure my entire family has been under one, and it's something that I refuse to believe or even acknowledge, because I like to be scientifically minded. I mean, I'm an open-minded individual, but still, but after so many things and talking to an exorcist about it, the more I've been swinging around toward that. I actually covered that in like the season 5, episode 13 episode on Southern Demonology, all around Southern generational curses. So yeah, they can be real things and they can screw with you in horrible, horrible ways. And I apologize for that because
Pretty insane. Like I said, I've always wanted to look deeper into that because I've always been like, man, maybe there's somebody who can, maybe I can ask somebody whose specialty is to help maybe my family get rid of these things that are happening to us or what happened to me. Because my brother actually has a friend who she was, I think she was, you'll have to forgive me, I think she was possessed when she was a child. That was what I heard, I think, or she has something that follows her for sure. And they had to do something to her and I forgot what it was. And he was like, no, it's real. Like, and I remember because I think he told me she would always wake up with like scars and stuff like that. And I wish I could ask him the full story, but I remember he told me that. Like, I was like, oh, dude, like, so I'm also, like I'm skeptic, but I'm also like afraid because I don't want to make something more angry, and I don't want to maybe know too much because I don't want to, rattle the cages or whatever, or maybe be like, oh no, that's just my mind. But who knows? A lot of this stuff it's scary, but it's also fascinating and it's intriguing, but it's like you don't want to mess with things, and then my mind, your mind can
yep.
do other things, and then when you add on top of that, it's just
what we can do is, if you're interested, and it can be on a podcast, it can be off record, but we're good friends with Father Birdsong, who is an exorcist who lives in Georgia, and we can always set up a consultation to see if we can at least give some advice about what to do. I am more than happy to do that.
Oh,
That would be great. And JJ is the bomb. They're all the bomb.
yeah, I know.
Like, they're all the
I
bomb.
love their podcast.
And I told him he needs to get on and talk. But
See-
thank you, JJ. I would love for that to happen with the Father Birdsong with him. So
And and I'm not trying to co-opt anything here, but I would love to have you on Southern Demonology.
I would love that. I would feel so privileged.
Because I think that I would love to get not only just kind of retracing what you've covered in the previous episode here, but to also go over what you have done, what has worked for you. Because I think that spirit of hope is something that I certainly haven't concentrated enough upon, and would love to have such a beacon on the show. I will get your contact information from
Okay.
Chris, and we'll go for it.
To get that contact information, it'll be a flat fee of $49.99, and we'll
When you owe me,
Seriously, yeah.
when you only owe me what, $5,000 from my consulting fee, so yeah.
for your appearance. Oh shit! You owe me my medallions, you bastard.
Okay, so I'm gonna say something that's kind of weird, just to throw this out here. His hair would always creep me out because
Oh, you talking about the demon marks?
yeah, you're no, I'll let you talk about that. I don't like talking about that. So his hair would always randomly when he wakes up, and this I took a picture of it, always goes in the shape of perfect horns. That was after he told me about that, whatever the hell that was. But legit, guys, every time I'm like, and so he will wake up with scratches, 3 of them. I don't like that.
What,
JJ, he
how
woke up,
often?
So I remember the
they were
shot.
so prominent. And
it's
I mean, they were about maybe, oh, come on, maybe about this long down his back, perfectly down half of his back
Oh,
in the shower after he got out. Guys, there was nothing on him when we got in. But the moment we got out, I turned him around and I said, Alex, what is that? Now, keep in mind, this is also after I told him about my story.
the leg. That was the most common.
The leg?
Remember
Yeah.
the history on my leg? I could feel something like really, really itching me, but at the same time, like stinging me. And I was just going like this, not paying attention to it. And like I looked down and there's 3 marks and they're really super red. Like they were really red. And I was
Really
like,
red.
I know I did not scratch myself that hard unless I was not paying attention. But that was the one that really freaked us both out, where I was like, "Oh man, that's I don't think I could have done that." Like
No,
just
he
scratching
could,
my
because
leg. They were so deep and red.
he did not have
They went
nails.
away right away after a couple of days, but that was the one that was like, this
Because,
is
and
not-
I told him, if you scratch yourself and it just like red marks, that goes away. That, like almost right away. But this stayed on him for like a couple of days.
We might want to do that consultation sooner rather than later.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Alex,
it's
I can
insane because like
see.
you don't believe in that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
but I've always, like I said, I've always felt like, like I said, the things like if I've almost died like 5 times, like that's not been fun. I take heart of it now because, I'm lucky, things like that haven't happened. But yeah, it's just crazy, like the immense of just bad luck that always happens, especially to me. Like,
And same with my family. And that's why I was talking to you guys about, can something attach to you so badly where it affects not only you, but your family? Because I feel like my whole family's generation is just cursed. I do want him to see somebody. It's not normal because, as you know, all 3 of you know what 3 is, the mark of the Trinity. I don't like that. And I think that's what it is, right, JJ?
It's an inversion and a corruption of the mark of the Trinity. Yes.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever said this to anybody, at least within last 20 years. My head is shaped so weird that I have 2 horn nubs on the very edges of my skull right here, and they are very prominent.
Wow.
Holy shit.
So I mean, that's probably just I'm a freak in a lot of different ways. So it's probably that, but,
Amanda, now Alex. Alex, I can completely understand why you would take this skeptical approach. It's like out of sight, out of mind. Don't want to think about it. Don't want to fuck with it. Just keep it away from me. But if you're willing, one day we'd love to have you on the show to, talk about your thoughts and stuff. We don't really have to go into experiences, but we could have like a general philosophical conversation about your beliefs and, why you believe what you believe. Again, Amanda, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know when we first started today's episode, you said you had some stories shared by your mom, but unfortunately we didn't get to that today, but we would like to have you back so you can share those stories.
Absolutely.
And listeners, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you want to be on the show like Amanda was today, just to talk about your experiences, your thoughts and everything, go ahead and reach out to us. Like I always say, we love interfacing with the community and we try to make a paranormal safe space. So, everyone's comfortable with sharing their experiences. I've had some, JJ's had some, Dean as well. So this is not a place where you're going to be judged. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for tuning into today's episode of The Wandering Road. You can find us on Apple, Google, Spotify, and most podcast platforms. Be sure to subscribe and share. Also, don't forget to give a follow on Instagram at TW Road Podcast and follow my TikTok at TWR Podcast. Take care, and I'll catch you on the next one.